Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. We're back again in the camper van tonight, but tonight I've not to say I'm in here for peace. I'm in here for privacy and isolation so I can record my YouTube videos. In my last video I was asked if I could share a tutorial on layers and how to use layer masks in Photoshop. I don't know about you, but when I first started using Photoshop, it took me a while to get used to layers and get my head round what layers meant and how you used layers and what order they were in. And that was even before I started using layer masks. So I'll walk you through a basic description of the principles of layers in Photoshop in this first part of the tutorial. And in the second part of the tutorial, I'll walk you through how to apply layer masks. To the layers tutorial. So a very basic overview of layers is this background layer is locked, and you can determine that by the padlock. So if you just click the padlock, that opens up this layer. If you drag up the white square, then what you'll see in the background is the checkered background, and that means that's transparent. So I can delete the white background if I need to for a transparent background. But what I'll do just now is I'll just show you the principle of layers. So to add a new layer, you go layer and then new layer. And you can call it, if I just call it, say layer 1, because if you're working on, say, a complex image or you've got multiple layers, it's always good to label your layers so you know. So what I'll do is I'll add a circle, and what I'll do is I'll change the colour of the fill and we'll give it a black line, and there we have a red kind of platform. So what I'll do now is add a new layer, and then on that layer I'll add a box. So if I go over to the tool and select rectangle, if I then drag that, I can build a rectangle. So again, I'll go back in, I'll change that colour to blue, and I'll change the stroke to no stroke, go back to blue, stroke, and then move. So what you can see then is I can freely move that square. Now what I'll do is I'll add another shape. So if I go into layer, new layer, and add new layer, and then I can add another shape. So I might select a triangle. So in here I've added a triangle, and I will change the colour of that triangle to green. Click on the move tool and then I'll drag it around. So the beauty about layers is you've got your eye symbol, which allows you to turn your layers on and off. So if I want to select what Photoshop calls the ellipse tool, or a flattened circle, and then as I turn them on, they all appear. So for the triangle, for example, I can drag the triangle and move it around, but I can't change the order of how they're displayed. So I can click on each item and move them around, but I can't change the order. So say I wanted the red circle to be in front of the green triangle. So because the green triangle is in the top layer, all I need to do is hold down, click on the ellipse layer, drag it up so it goes above the green triangle, and then what you'll start to see is that then is above all, and it's the top of the priority order. And that's useful for layer masks that you'll see later on, especially when we add a layer mask to delete or remove elements of the photograph. So I can move this around, I can make symbols, I can make shapes, I can still click on the green triangle, but as you can see, the green triangle still behind the red circle. So what I'll do is I'll position that here. And then the other thing, if I click on the top eclipse layer, if I click on text, I can then add text, and it will add that in for me as the top layer. But if I change that colour, I'll just pick that purple because it's there. Click on the move tool, and then when I drag the text down, the text is above all the layers and it's the top of the priority. So what I can do is, if I was to drag the text layer below the eclipse tool, now what you'll see is the hello is hidden. So again, it's still above the green triangle, it's still above the blue square, but it hides behind the red circle. So from a layers point of view, it takes a long time to get your head round layers sometimes, and it's not the fact that how you use layers, it's most of the time it's keeping track of what layer you have and in what position you have them and what priority order you have them. So I hope that gave you a quick overview of how to add layers. And again, to remove a layer, all you need to do is highlight it or select the eye symbol, and then that will reveal as you select it again. So in order for me to flatten all those layers, if I select the background layer, that changes it from transparent to white. All I need to do is go to layer, flatten image, and there you have a single image. Can't move anything around because it's a single image, and you can save that for use at a later date. So hopefully that's gave you a high level basic principle of how to add a layer, how to put content into a layer, how to change the priority of the layer, how to name a layer so that you can keep track of all your layers as you're editing, and then how to flatten all your layers that gives you a single image. So we'll now move on to the next tutorial about how we apply layer masks. So hopefully that basic overview of layers has helped. Now let's look at how we can apply layer masks to add or remove elements from our photographs. So last night my wife kindly modelled for me, and I've got two images that I took of my wife, and what we'll do is we'll use those two images and we'll merge one image into another, and I'll apply the principle of layer masks, and I'll walk you through how we achieve that. So now let's get into the tutorial. We've got the layer masks. So layer masks in Photoshop allow you to take elements out or add into your photographs, and are easily recovered if you make a mistake. I use layer masks to remove elements in my photos rather than use the erase tool, and the reason being is the erase tool makes the deletion permanent, whereas if you use layer masks, you can actually recover. If you make a mistake, you'll recover really quickly. I've loaded these two images. As you'll see, they're in two separate layers on the right hand side here. You can view each thumbnail by turning the visibility icon on and off. So again, like what we demonstrated in the first tutorial, if I click the eye tool, then you're able to see it. So my wife's sitting on the left hand side in the top layer. Now what I want to do is create a single photo and have my wife in that single photo, but sitting on both sides of the couch reading her book. And the principle of editing layer masks in Photoshop is really using the foreground colours black and white. And what I mean by that is, these are your foreground colours, and I can switch and alternate by clicking the arrow to say, right, white is now my foreground colour and black is my background colour. Then if I switch it back, black becomes my foreground colour and white becomes my background colour. But in Photoshop, when you're using layer masks to edit, there's a rule of thumb. And the rule of thumb is white reveals and black conceals. Or as I like to think of it, black lets you rub out or remove areas in the image that you don't want to reveal elements of the image underneath that layer. So to summarise, white equals reveal and black equals conceal or rub out. So let me show you. So if I click on the top layer, my wife's still sitting on the left hand side. So if I press and open the layer mask icon, that then opens up a layer mask. So we've got a white background in the layer mask here. So to do this, I click on the paintbrush. So in order for this layer mask to be effective, if I select the paintbrush, I make sure my foreground is black. And then what I do is, I know, and I'll double check, if I disable that first layer, I can see the proximity of where my wife's sitting, because it's that element of the photograph that I just want to bring my wife forward into the photograph above. So now I've got my brush tool, I've got my black foreground colour. I might increase the brush size. If I hold down my left mouse click and then just drag that around the screen, what you'll start to see is my wife being revealed from the image below. So effectively what I'm doing, from that top image, I'm effectively rubbing out that area so that my wife gets brought in to this top photograph. So now I've rubbed out the top layer. If I click the visibility icon, then you'll still see my wife on the right hand side. But if I click the bottom layer, you can actually see where I've rubbed out. And if I turn it on, then she pops back into the single image. So in order to create the single image, we go back to the principle that we discussed in the first tutorial, which was how you flatten a layer. So if I go up to layer and select flatten image, then I've now got my final image with my wife sitting beside herself, reading her book, and then I can just save that image as a JPEG or whatever format I want. So I hope that gave you a basic insight into understanding layers and the use of layer masks. There are lots of videos on YouTube that can help you with more detail if you're interested. So if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, please hit subscribe. Also, if you press the bell icon, that will notify you automatically when I upload future videos. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.